If you clicked on this thumbnail, chances are you're in the market for a watercolor journal. Hey everybody, my name is Emily, and here on my channel we do art tutorials, we do product reviews, and we just discuss all things watercolor. So if that sounds good to you, hit that subscribe button right now. Alright, if you paint with watercolors all the time, watercolor journals are one of the best ways to paint on location or while you're traveling, and just to keep your artwork in a neatly contained book as a way to document your growth and journey as an artist. If you're still searching for the perfect watercolor journal, this video is for you. I spent hours scouring Amazon, and I actually bought all of the 100% watercolor journals that I could find. A few of them I actually already had, but I spent about $500. Woo! To be honest though, I was actually surprised at how few 100% cotton journals I could actually find, considering the behemoth online international superstore that is Amazon. So I think there's definitely an opportunity in this space for product developers to come up with some really great 100% cotton journals. It's one of those products that you fill up, you buy more of, or at least you do if it's affordable and you enjoy painting in it. For a few years now, I've been filling up the pages of this little 4x4-inch journal. It's called the Field Artist Sketchbook, and you can't actually find these on Amazon anymore. Now, inside of this journal, I only do sketches from life, so truthfully, it's been kind of a slow process filling up all of these pages. The fact that the paper is 100% cellulose didn't really bother me at first, as I was just starting out watercolor. But as I got more serious about watercolor painting, I quickly started to notice the problems with low quality paper. The two sides of this paper are textured differently. One is kind of rough and the other is smooth. And when I try to do wet on wet, the paint sort of just puddles. It doesn't disperse nicely or respond the same way that the cotton paper does. It's just not up to snuff, so to speak. So for this video, I thought I would concentrate all of my efforts on 100% cotton watercolor paper journals only, since that's what I prefer to use and it's what I recommend to all of my viewers. Now, as you'll see, not all cotton paper is created equal. There's definitely a huge variety even within this constraint. You have multiple paper textures. You have hot pressed, cold pressed, rough pressed. You also have lighter or heavier weight papers, and you have mold made papers, which are pressed in a mill, versus more pulpy handmade papers that are usually made from recycled cotton rag. There are also different ways the books are bound. They could be glued, they can be sewn in sections, or spiral bound, just to name a few. And of course, there's a wide range of cover quality, from faux leather like this or linen to paper covers or even real leather covers. So here are some questions to ask yourself when you're looking for a new sketchbook. What's important to me? What do I value most? Is it the price? Is it the painting experience, as in the quality of the paper? What kind of texture do I enjoy most? Do I enjoy smoother paper or rougher paper? Do I want the journal to look really good? Or is it something I just want to practice in and the cover doesn't really matter? How durable is the paper? Can it handle watercolor techniques like taping, lifting, masking fluid, or wet on wet? How does the binding hold up? That's an important one too. So keep all these questions in the back of your mind, and I'm going to take you on a little tour of the 20 different watercolor journals that I purchased on Amazon. I'll be reviewing them in order from cheapest to most expensive, and you can decide for yourself which one you like best. And at the end, I'll try to pick a favorite. No guarantees here. So first, I'll be doing a section of budget journals. These range anywhere between $10 and $20, which is really cheap for cotton paper. So I know I said I was only reviewing 100% cotton watercolor journals, but I did decide to try one journal that was 20% cotton just because it got such good ratings on Amazon, and it's our cheapest one at $12.49. This is the Zen Sangam A5 watercolor book. It has 50 pages. It's 120 pound, so it's a little thinner than the paper I'm used to using. It is made in India, and it gets 4.4 out of 5 stars. All right, some pros are that you cannot beat this price. It's the cheapest one I'm going to show you here today. The cover is quite nice. It's a fabric hardcover with quality binding, a built-in elastic band, really cute design, and has, of course, lots of pages. It does handle tape and masking fluid surprisingly well. Some cons were that because it's not 100% cotton, the water and paint just don't spread as well, and blending is a lot harder. The pages are really thin, so you'll see some warping on the back side of your page especially, and it only handles multiple layers of wet and wet, kind of so-so. The paper just dries really fast. I don't foresee using this journal much in the future just because I do prefer my cotton watercolor paper, but overall a really good value for the price. The next journal I tried was the ClaireFontaine cold pressed watercolor pad. It's wire bound. This one is 4.5 by 7 inches, so quite small. I paid $14.50 for it. It's a nice light grade 100% cotton paper with 12 sheets. They do also sell a larger size, and it's sold by the Amazon Global Store UK. It gets 4.5 out of 5 stars. Some pros are that it's obviously inexpensive, which is nice. It's spiral bound, so it stays open. It's small and easy to pack. The paper quality is excellent. I would say on par with Etchr or Saunders Waterford. The 140-pound weight paper is wonderful. It handles the tape, masking fluid, lifting, and multiple layers of wet and wet, just like pro paper. I guess the only con I had with this was that it's just not a beautiful journal. It's great for studies, but not finished paintings. But overall, great value for the price. Up next is the Paul Rubens 100% cotton hot pressed watercolor journal. This one is 7.6 inches by 5.3 inches, 20 sheets, and it was $14.99. I have actually bought this one twice because I really like this journal for a hot pressed option. The covers come in pink or black, and there are 2 different sizes to choose from. They are made in China. It gets 4.6 out of 5 stars. It's such an affordable journal, and it's a quality hardcover with the built-in elastic band and a bookmark ribbon. And if you like painting on smoother surfaces, this hot press paper is beautiful. Some cons are that tape tends to damage this paper, and masking fluid can be tricky too. Also, hot press paper will dry really quickly, so you do have to adjust your painting style accordingly. Overall, it's a great value for a journal, and you can be proud to show it off. This one was out of stock for a while, and I was so happy to see it come back. It gets 4.7 out of 5 stars with almost 900 ratings on Amazon. It's the B Paper Company Watercolor Journal. It's 5.5 by 8 inches with 30 sheets for $15.50. Some pros are that it's made in the USA. It's acid-free, natural white, cold-pressed, 140-pound watercolor paper, and it's European milled, which means it's made in a mill, and you're going to have a more consistent texture with your papers versus handmade papers, which tend to be more pulpy and have some imperfections. The double wire binding lies perfectly flat, and the extra heavyweight black chipboard cover can actually be personalized with acrylic if you want. The pages are perforated for easy sheet removal, and it handles wet on wet and masking fluid really well. I would say it's an excellent practice journal. Some cons are that the paper tends to pill with lifting or scrubbing. It's easily damaged with the tape. It's a rather fragile cotton cold press paper, sort of like Fluid 100 is what I would compare it to as far as the quality. On the outside, it just looks like a student notebook, so I wouldn't recommend it as an heirloom journal. The next one I tried was the Dina Wakley Media Journal. This one is 6 by 6 inches, $15.56 was what I paid for this one. It's a heavyweight cotton paper journal for mixed media, made in India, and this gets 4.6 out of 5 stars. Some pros are that it's really affordable. It's got a customizable white hardboard cover with super thick paper that can be painted on both sides. Mixed media just generally means it can handle a lot of paint. It handled the tape and wet layers really well. Unfortunately, some cons are that the cover didn't stay open very well. The binding is super stiff, and the highly textured handmade cotton paper does not do well with scrubbing, lifting, and definitely not masking fluid. I was ripping off little layers of paper when I tried to remove that. It also takes a little bit of a learning curve to paint on it, but overall a very cool journal if you like lots of texture and a more unique looking sketchbook. The next one I tried was the Artway Indigo Rag Watercolor Sketchbook. This one is a concertina journal, A5 sized. It was $16.25. It has 18 continuous sheets or 36 sides, and they also offer it in an A6 landscape size and a panorama landscape size. These are handmade in northern India. They're 100% recycled cotton rag paper sheets with natural deckled edges, traditionally sized with a gelatine solution, which is an animal derivative, so it's not vegan friendly, but I do love the transparency here on their listing. It gets 4.6 out of 5 stars, almost 500 ratings, so people really love the hardcover, the heavy weight of the paper, the price point. They don't feel like they have to be too precious with it. Some pros are that it's a unique design. You can create a panoramic landscape, which is a really cool option for plein air painters. The paper handles wet on wet really well. Some cons are that the handmade paper was rather fragile. It didn't do well with masking fluid, and the off-white color I found prevents getting really bright whites in your painting, and it also seemed to kind of dull my brighter colors. Up next is the Wonder Forest hardcover watercolor journal. It's cold pressed cotton, 8 by 5.5 inches for $19.99. Wonder Forest is actually another YouTube channel, so this is a YouTuber's product. The journal has 20 sheets. It's 140-pound cold pressed paper. Unfortunately, it gets rather poor reviews on Amazon, only 3.8 out of 5 stars. Some pros I discovered were that it handled tape and masking fluid just fine. The cold press texture and the thickness of the pages are perfect, and they do handle all of my usual watercolor techniques. Some cons are that the binding is glued rather than sewn, and the cover does feel cheap. The bright white faux leather will most likely get very dirty very easily when you're traveling with it, and I just question the overall durability of this journal. This next section of journals I've dubbed affordable, so they're anywhere between $20 and $25, just a little more expensive than that last section. Up next is the Etchr Mixed Media Sketchbook size A6. This one is a hot pressed 100% cotton journal. It's vegan friendly with a customizable cover, and it's $20 on Amazon. You can also get cold pressed or hot pressed in several different sizes, and this one gets tons of great ratings. The binding is really good and the paper is decent. I also think the elastic band is essential for a hardcover. That's just my opinion. I'm honestly not a huge fan of how thin this paper is. It seems to dry out really fast. It's just not one I want to keep reaching for, but I do think it would be a perfect sketchbook for pen and ink. Now, this was my first time trying Hahnemuhle paper. This is the watercolor book size A6. They are 250 GSM sheets, 30 sheets total. This one was $20.76 plus $3.99 shipping. Now, because these are available on other websites where you don't have to pay for shipping and they have a lot more size options, if you want this watercolor journal, I wouldn't recommend shopping on Amazon for it. But it is an excellent journal, really great quality paper. Lots of sheets equals lots of paintings, especially since you can paint both sides. It handles tape and masking fluid perfectly. My only con with this one was that the cover was just a bit stiff, but I could overcome that because it's a nice journal. The Vivida 100% cotton sketchbook, this one is 7.5-inch square, was $21.07, again, plus $3.99 shipping, so on the more expensive side. It's 20 pages, cream colored paper with a leather-like cover, made in India. And this one does not get great reviews. Unfortunately, it's only 3.2 out of 5 stars. Lots of people were complaining that the paper feels pulpy and disintegrates with handling. Now, while the cover is nice, I had to agree with the reviewers after testing this journal. I did not like the cream color of the paper, and the texture was fragile and pulpy. It just didn't handle masking fluid or tape very well. And for the price, you can just get much more quality options. Up next is the Winsor Newton Professional Watercolor Paper Journal. This one is 5 by 7 inches, cold pressed cotton paper, $21.88, and there is a newer listing available now for $19.97 with an updated cover. This is, of course, your classic traditional cylinder mold-made paper from their mill in France, and if you've ever tried Winsor Newton paper before, you know it's excellent quality. This is a great study journal if you want something to practice in that will be the same quality as your nicer pads or blocks, and it gets tons of great reviews. I've loved the spiral binding and the compact size of this one. Now, this is one I was actually skeptical about. This is the Khadi handmade watercolor paper pad. It's 150 GSM, rough pressed with 15 sheets, 15 by 15 centimeters. This one was $21.95. It's made in India, and there's actually not a lot of info in the listing about this particular paper. But some pros were that the paper was surprisingly awesome to paint on. So far, my favorite handmade paper, I would say. It handles tape and masking fluid and wet on wet perfectly. The colors showed up really bright and bold on this paper. And as far as cons, well, the cover, there isn't one. It's just paper sewn together. So it's definitely not going to be an archival heirloom type journal. All right. Next, it's the pricier range of journals, $25 and up. The Arch Watercolor Travel Journal. This is 6 by 10 inches, and I've actually already made a video about this journal. It's one of my absolute favorite practice journals because, well, Arch is some of the best paper in the world. In fact, I use this journal for the daily challenges inside my Watercolor Mastery membership. I do 2 small paintings per side, so when it's all finished, I have 60 paintings total in this little journal, which is a fabulous value. Again, it's not an heirloom journal, so if you're looking for something with a beautiful cover, this just isn't it, but awesome quality, and it's one that you'll come back to again and again. Next is the Baohong Academy Watercolor Journal with a PU leather cover. It's 24 sheets, size 6 by 9 inches, and I paid $29.99 for this one. Both cold pressed and hot pressed options are available in 3 different sizes. These are made in China, and they get 4.5 out of 5 stars, generally really good reviews. Some people mentioned that the binding doesn't hold up or that there's just too much glue showing close to the spine. Now, I've painted on Baohong paper for a few years now, and as expected, this paper performs beautifully. I didn't actually notice any issues with the binding. In fact, this is one of the nicest covers I've seen so far with this quality faux leather. It holds up beautifully under wet on wet, scrubbing, tape, and masking fluid. And altogether, I thought this was a great value for both the aesthetic and the paper quality. Now, if you're enjoying all of these different paintings that I'm doing in all of these journals, they're all going to be trickled out as full-length tutorials on my Watercolor Mastery membership. So if you want to watch these tutorials step by step, they're coming out in the next couple weeks, and you'll get to see them if you become a member. So I'll leave a link in the description so you can check that out. Next is a mini embroidery cover watercolor sketchbook. This one is a whopping 2.6 by 2.4 inches. It is so tiny. This little travel book is 20 sheets, and it was $29.99. So the same exact price as my Baohong journal, but so tiny. Now, of course, you're paying for the novelty of this. There's this unique embroidery cover. It's handmade with cotton rag paper and elastic band closure. And guys, this paper was amazing. It performed so well. I did this little rose painting in it, and it was a joy to work on. I was surprised. I thought, something that's got so much effort put into the cover can't possibly have such great paper, but it was wonderful. So I highly recommend this one as a novelty gift. Next is the Saunders Waterford 7.5 by 11 inch spiral fat pad at 25 sheets. It's a cold pressed cotton, and I paid $37.50 for this one. Well, actually, after shipping and taxes, it ended up being closer to $50. And that's because if you purchase this through Amazon, it ships from Jackson's Art Supplies in the UK. So if you plan on purchasing this one, I would recommend just purchasing directly from a different website rather than through Amazon. That said, this was an awesome journal. I have no complaints at all about it. It's right up there with Arch. The quality is amazing, spiral bound, so it stays flat. Unfortunately, the cover is very thin, and it's not going to be one of your beautiful heirloom archival quality covers. So this one is one I would consider as a nice practice journal. The Kolo professional watercolor book was brand new on Amazon as of the last few weeks. I hadn't seen this one before, but it is made in the USA. And this one is spiral bound. It's 8.5 by 5.5 inches in a portrait format. It actually comes in this size and also in a 7 by 10 inch journal. Now this is premium paper. It's made using the cylinder mold process. So it's a professional quality watercolor paper, acid free of course, and it's nice bright white. Something else really cool about this brand is that according to the listing, Kolo is committed to saving our environment. So 1% of their artist book sales go to the nonprofit organizations in Africa working to save the great wild animals that are in peril. So if you're drawn to a company that has a cause, this one is it. Next is the Michael Solovyev Studio Watercolor Sketchbook. It's 100% cotton made with Saunders paper. This one was $38, and it's 36 pages or 18 sheets, size A4. Gets 4.8 out of 5 stars, and it's made in Canada. Now, if you've never heard of Michael Solovyev, he is one of the most amazing watercolor artists on the planet. He's so incredible. And because he was formerly a theater stage designer, all of his paintings just have light effects, just like you would see on a stage. So it's kind of cool that the cover is decorated with his artwork. The paper was beautiful to work on. You can see I did this skull painting in it, and it was, Saunders. Perfect quality. And this one's got a really memorable name, the FB32-300 Lay Flat Art Pro Album Watercolor Stonebook. This one was $38.68. It's stitched with a flexible binding, so it actually easily opens and lays flat. And I was kind of skeptical. I was like, really? That's stone? But apparently it is real eco stone cover, long-lasting and pH-neutral paper, and it's a handmade product. There were actually no reviews on this when I purchased it, so this was one of those wild cards. But I loved this journal. It is beautiful, it performs well, and as far as archival quality journals go, if you're looking for that aesthetic, this is my favorite one so far. Now, I've been wanting to try the Etchr Perfect Sketchbook for a long time. I've heard amazing things about these, and this one is one of the most expensive journals I purchased. It was $55 for a 44-page journal, size A4. You can also purchase a 3-pack from Amazon for a whopping $156.95 if you do a lot of journaling. This premium heavyweight paper can be painted on both sides, and it gets 4.6 out of 5 stars. These are made in China. This journal really lives up to the hype. I hate to say it, but oh my goodness, it is a great buy. Considering the large size and the excellent quality of the paper, this one was a joy to paint on, and I can definitely recommend this one wholeheartedly. All right, we made it to the very last journal. This one was the one I was most excited about. It was $88.99, so by far the most expensive journal I have ever purchased. It's a real leather watercolor journal with thick cotton, 140-pound paper with deckled edges. Now, anytime you have handmade paper, there's always kind of like this, well, I don't know, is it going to be good? I had high hopes for this one. It's huge. It's got 80 pages, and it's a larger size, 8.5 by 5.5 inches, hand-sewed spine. It's just so gorgeous. There were no reviews on this one, I'm guessing because of the high price. But unfortunately, while the aesthetic was awesome, I did not like the texture or the responsiveness of this paper. With Wet and Wet, it ended up drying so fast, it would go from a puddle to bone dry in just minutes. It handled tape just fine, but I don't know. I was bummed. I did not enjoy the painting experience in this one. So that one was a bummer. Okay, so as you might have guessed, this whole process of testing out and doing a painting in each one of these journals took me quite a few weeks. Here they all are, 20 different journals that I purchased from Amazon and tested. So you might be wondering, okay, what are the best ones? And obviously that's going to be somewhat subjective. Everybody has different favorites. But for me, I'm going to give you a few of my favorites, the little gems in this collection of journals. Most giftable goes to this little one. I mean, look how cute that is. And the paper was surprisingly awesome. It really did a great job handling all the techniques I tried in this little journal. What's the journal I'll probably buy over and over again for studies? Arch journals. Definitely. I'm going to come back to this one again and again. Although the Saunders Waterford rivals these, so if you're looking for something a little larger than the Arch journal, the Saunders Waterford was fabulous for studies. Best archival journal. I loved the stone cover book. This one was definitely on the pricier end, but if you're looking for something that's going to last for a lifetime, this one was just beautiful. The paper was flawless, and the binding is so well made. Most disappointing journal was definitely my Rustico leather covered journal. Sadly, as beautiful as this looks, the paper just wasn't up to snuff. It was not my favorite paper, so I don't know how much I'm going to use this one, which is really sad. It's so beautiful, and it smells so good. Nothing like leather. So all in all, we have so many winners, a couple of not so great ones, but I think we did really well. If you're choosing cotton watercolor paper for your journal, you really can't go wrong. But I think the moral of the story is here, stick with papers that you love painting on, stick with styles that you enjoy, and hopefully this helped narrow down your search for the perfect journal. And now you know what to expect, at least for anything that's available on Amazon. Leave me a like and a comment if you found this video helpful. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in another video.